découverte chef Joe. Yo passé nous les voyages musique nous. Mais attends jodi, jeunesse qui la j'ai. Si pas te wadix qui a poussé. For only one as you done for us all. Spreading the culture all over the world. For all the good things that you done for God, that's what it is. We thanking you. We thanking you, brother.
Shakers who have done so much for the World Creole Music Festival, bringing Dominica's name far and wide. So this morning we have a very special guest from La Martinique. He's a Dominican, by the way, and he has been doing excellent work in the French island of Martinique. He is the Dominique Honorary Consul for Martinique. Let's welcome Mark Frampton. Good morning to you, Saka Fête Frère.
Mala.
Tout bite bien, frère.
Tout bagay belle.
Okay, Mark, let's just get straight to it because we have only 1 hour. And first of all, let's tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, a small bio, short bio about yourself.
All right, well, like you said, Mark Frampton, born in Dominica, in Roseau Central. So, you know, some guys like to call certain people Roseau Kawat, so that's what it is, you know.
You are Rozakawat?
Roseau Kawat, yeah.
At this St. Mary's Academy basketball grounds.
Yes, playing football and cricket in the street on King George V Street where I grew up, and playing basketball, yeah, at SMA. I actually went to grammar school, so and then after I went to Sifocol and left to go to France to study. I studied French and learned to speak French at a university in a place called Grenoble, which is in the Alps in France. And then after I studied architecture. So I'm an architect. I've been practicing for about 35 years now. And when I finished studying architecture, I got a job offer in Martinique. So I came to Martinique and I've been here for all that time. Of course, a lot of people seem to think that I live in Dominica because I'm always in Dominica. I'm in Dominica twice a month. So I say I work in Martinique, but I live in Dominica.
I love that. So your heart is always at home.
At 2,000%. So, and I am Dominica's honorary consul from 2005, I think. So I'm actually the longest serving honorary consul in Martinique right now. 2005 to now is a long time.
So 20, you're celebrating your 20th anniversary this year.
Exactly, my brother. Exactly.
So that we should be having some champagne for the festival this year.
Well, we definitely have to work on that. Yeah. We definitely have to work on that. So that's it. So of course, honorary consul means that you do that without getting paid.
So the job officially is basically voluntary. It's gratis. You don't get paid.
Exactly. Yeah. So to me, it's like giving back service to Dominica. You know. And of course, for you to be able to be honorary consul, you have to have some form of profession. So your activities as honorary consul happen out of the office, your office for your professional activities. So I'm principally an architect, and I of course exercise the activity of honorary consul since, like I said, 2005.
Okay, what about the World Creole Music Festival, Mark? You have been assisting in the various sections of the World Creole Music Festival. Can you bring us back to when you actually started? I know for a fact that you have been on the ground assisting some of the teams in terms of promotion, collating some of the information, getting things done. Tell us about your relationship with the World Creole Music Festival and how far it has gone.
Well, I would say that relationship goes back about maybe 10 or 12 years. Um, I don't know how long Colin Piper had been there for and from when, but at the time, what we tried to do from the beginning, there's a government service here that is called the Regional Direction of Arts and Culture,
Mm-hmm.
and they finance a number of things, and so what we did at the time was we got in touch with that government department so that we could get financing for certain artists to participate at the World Creole Festival. And what they did was they would finance either young artists, young and upcoming artists, or artists who were of a certain age and who no longer had the what you call it, the recognition, and so they were trying to get them back on stage. And so this guy, you probably know him better than me, Tupac, Tumpak,
Yes, Masse Tumpak.
Marseille and Tupac.
Yes.
So we got them to finance for almost, I would say, 6 years. Every year, at least two artists who participated at the World Creole Festival.
Mm-hmm.
The intention was, of course, not only to restrict ourselves to having artists participate at the Creole Festival, but it was also to try to develop the whole Creole aspect of things, so that we could get, for instance, persons who were into Creole studies or research in Martinique to come to Dominica. I don't know if you remember, at one point in time we used to have exchanges at the Extramural Center.
Yes. Yes.
Where around Creole Festival time, well, I would say around Independence time, because it was more something associated with independence and culture and Creole and so on. And it would happen between Creole Festival and Independence, but it was all part of the same package. So the whole idea was not just to have musicians on stage, but also to promote the whole Creole research and activity and language and the common experience that we have between Martinique and so on. So that I think, like I said, we started that in 10 years. Of course, everything takes a lot of time. So when we started 10 years ago, we finally, after about 3 years or so, got it to come into place. And for probably about 6 years, we had persons coming, playing at the Creole Festival, and we also had persons coming, like I said, to exchange and discuss matters concerning Creole. I don't know if you remember. As a matter of fact, the picture that I sent you, right?
Yeah.
Is a picture of we were at, because every year we would do promotion in Martinique.
Yes.
So I suppose that today we probably feel that the festival is so big that we no longer need to do promotion.
Yes.
But I remember at the time, every year we would do promotion. That year we actually had Gordon Henderson with us in Martinique.
Yes.
Doing that promotion. And so that is a picture that I sent you. I purposely selected that picture because it reminded me of the times when we had this euphoria in Martinique just before the Creole Festival, where we would have signboards and we would have radio broadcasts and people on TV, and we would have an event promoting the festival, and that would create the whole ambience that we wanted to create to bring people. Like I said, probably today we seem to no longer think that we need that, because we have so many people who are just coming automatically.
Mm-hmm. But very important, Mark, is the institution for culture, which is LADRAC. They would you would get in touch with them, and they would organize whatever band they would want to send down to Dominica, and mainly is not the normal zouk and the contemporary kind of Creole music, but more traditional Creole music. And most importantly, they would fund the band to come down to Dominica, and in Dominica we would just host them.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, we didn't even host them; they would pay everything.
Okay.
So they would pay including the accommodation and per diem and so on. And like you said, in most cases, they were more culturally based musicians. So and which I think was fantastic, because I mean that aspect of the festival to me is extremely important. the fact that we can continue to have persons who present music that has that cultural foundation, you know?
Because one of the things I found out even then is they would have allowed the World Creole Music Fraternity to discover a new type of Creole groove, a new type of Creole music. And I think it was very, because Souval Bois, we know of Dede Sepui, but Marseille Tupac was big and also very big in Martinique, and still possibly big in Martinique. But it's a different type of Creole music apart from, let's say, the zouk and the cadence and that sort of thing. So it would have allowed the fraternity from the World Creole Music Festival patronage to discover a different type of Creole music, which is in the roots, in the wasin of the whole Creole culture.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you just mentioned Dede Saint-Prix, right? Musicians like that. I mean, their type of music, like you say, is a roots type of Creole music, and like for instance, Dede Saint-Prix, he plays flute, right?
Yeah,
And what his music is called La Flûte des Monts. In
yeah,
other words, it's the flute of the mountains,
yeah,
right? So one can well imagine, you can picture this thing. I mean, it's someone who is coming from a rural community, right? Where, he's anchored in culture, and he's coming and presenting that type of music to persons who probably, like you say, are only expecting to see Zouk and so on. You know what I mean? And to us, I mean, to me and whoever it was at the time, that was essential because you had to have that diversity and you had to be able to show where the roots of Creole music is or are at the time. And we still should, I think, should be doing that today.
because I felt it was like a master class in a sense of introducing different and educating us and educating the whole fraternity about different aspects of the Creole life and Creole music. And but what has happened to that relationship, Mark?
Well, okay. The institution was called the DRAC at the time. So it was the regional, whatever. So it's no longer called DRAC, it's now called DAC. They removed the regional part of it. One of the difficulties that we have here, especially that I have as honorary consul, is that persons who head these institutions are generally from France, and they're only in Martinique for a period of like 3 years, right? So every 3 years, you have somebody different who is heading these institutions, and
Yeah.
every time somebody new comes in, you can find that the policies change, right? So over the years, we found that we saw the policies changing. They no longer have that line of credit that they had before that we could easily allocate.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, we generally would do this very late. I mean, Creole Festival is in October, right?
Yeah.
And we would kind of start getting into discussions with them around September,
Wow.
and which is short, and we were always able within that short space of time because of the line of credit they had to be able to get it to happen. Right now, the lines of credit they have are different, and not only they're no longer specifically designated to getting individuals to come. It's supposed to be something that has to go beyond that. In other words, it goes more into cooperation, cultural cooperation between Dominica and institutions like DAC, which will go like into museums and exhibitions and so and like we said before, research on Creole and those things. So for it to happen today, it's something that we have to start planning from like February,
Yeah.
just when their financial year starts, and they're setting their programs in place to find out exactly what is it that they can finance and so on. So we have to start looking at it from January or February, and we also have to include in that activities, like I said, that go beyond just Creole Festival.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I'll come back to what I had mentioned previously, when we used to have persons come in where we would have discussions on Creole, we would have discussions on Creole language, we would have discussions on all sorts of things, Creole music, Creole cuisine, and
Creole life in general. Creole life in general.
yeah, exactly. And so we have to get it to go beyond that. It's something which means that it's something that we really have to prepare. We have to write it up, you know, and we have to make sure that there is a package that we can present that would include musicians coming to participate in a Creole festival.
How
So we
important,
try.
Mark, is the participation of the French to the festival? You reside in Martinique, particularly. Let's deal with Martinique for now. How important is the French participation and appreciation for the World Creole Music Festival?
Well, to be honest, I mean, it has been growing.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was a time when we felt we had to promote because we weren't getting probably the kind of response that we wanted. Right now, I think that people automatically, especially last year and this year, I mean, you wouldn't believe the number of persons who have called me, who are calling me every day for accommodation to find out how they can get about to buy tickets, you know, and to be honest, the what you call it when the artists were presented a month ago,
Yes.
persons in Martinique were actually waiting for that,
Yeah.
you know. So they were sitting, waiting, they kept calling me, when are we going to know who are the artists who are going to be present at the World Creole Festival? And so it's something that has grown. And today, I think that people have, because, you know, Martinique historically has this connection with St. Lucia, right? So Martinicans have a tendency to go more south to St. Lucia than to go to Dominica. And so they have always been very much attracted to the festival in St. Lucia, which was a jazz and has evolved to
Yeah.
whatever it is today. And I think that today the attraction that presents World Creole Festival is almost similar
Yeah.
to the jazz festival in St. Lucia in relation to Martiniquans. And so, you know, they're very, very much interested. I mean, I know that this year we're going to get a lot of people from Martinique.
So there's a big buzz already
yeah.
from that part, from the Martinique side.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But in terms of let's say let's go deeper into the relationship historically and even culturally. Have we taken full advantage of that relationship? I mean, Martinique in particular. We don't really want to talk about Guadeloupe as much. But have we taken as a destination closest neighbor, to my mind, and that's how I feel, St. Lucia has done more than us in terms of their relationship to Martinique, but then almost same proximity from Martinique. Martinique is in the center of the two English-speaking islands. But have we, as a country, Dominica, taken advantage of a similar arrangement like how St. Lucia is doing?
Well, no, I don't think so. To be honest, I really don't think so. But then again, you mentioned Guadeloupe a while ago. You see, it's actually strange because the relationship that Martinique and St. Lucia have is similar to the relationship that we have with Guadeloupe.
Yeah.
Right. However, we have an advantage. St. Lucia only has one French island close to them, which is Martinique.
Yeah.
Right? We have Martinique and Guadeloupe.
Yeah.
So I have always said that there's no reason, absolutely no reason for us not to have exactly the same level of relationship that we have with Guadeloupe, with Martinique, right? Historically, we know that we have always had Dominicans going to Guadeloupe, right? And so there's a large Dominican population in Guadeloupe that has influenced all sorts of things in Guadeloupe. And you know, the other day I was saying to someone, you know what is called a bouquet, right? What is a bouquet?
A bucket is the mix.
Exactly.
Right? A mix for us, but larger, basically larger, stuffed mix.
Exactly. Now, where do you think that came from in Guadeloupe?
From Dominica.
Yeah, it came from Dominicans who are living in Guadeloupe, right?
Yeah, because I remember a lady, Anthony Guss's sister, and we're talking about early 80s, a lady called Jocelyn Gussie. She had a restaurant, a caravan, and she's the first lady I know that actually brought out bucket. It was, it was ridiculed at the time because people felt feeling bucket was a relationship with the name, and all of a sudden now everywhere you go is even in Dominica. What has happened? Strangely, it went to the French and now has returned to Dominica. and it is called well Bix normally, but then it is the larger type of Bix, stuffed Bix, but it came from
Yeah,
Dominica.
of course. And it just goes to show you, and some, and, I'm proud and I'm amused to say so to Guadeloupeans and Martiniquans. It just goes to show how much we have influenced, right? The way of life and so on in Guadeloupe, right? I mean, something like sorrel. I can tell you 10 years ago, nobody drank sorrel in Martinique,
Wow,
or in Guadeloupe, right?
wow,
And right now, I mean, you had people used to come from Martinique and Guadeloupe to Dominica to buy sorrel, right? For them to be able to make what they call bissap, which is like sorrel juice in
yeah,
Guadeloupe and Martinique. Okay?
wow,
Goes to show you. And we're talking about how have we made use of the relationship. And I'll tell you, people used to come to buy sorrel in Dominica to make bissap in Guadeloupe and Martinique, right?
wow,
Right? For the past maybe 5, 6, 8 years, they're now planting sorrel in Guadeloupe and Martinique to make their own bissap, right?
wow.
So it just goes to show you that if we had, made ourselves aware of those opportunities, there's no way that we should have let that little market, get out of our hands.
Yeah,
We should today be continuing to sell sorrel to Guadeloupe and
yeah.
Martinique for those things, right? So coming back to what you were asking, I think that no, we have not been able to push this relationship where it should be in relation to
Where
Martinique.
it really should be, Mark, in your opinion, as the council, where you believe it should be now, because I still feel we should not be having all this interrogation coming into Guadeloupe when the French comes to Dominica, they don't have the same interrogation in terms of let's say immigration wise.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you something. Martinique is now a member of the OECS and CARICOM, right?
Yes, yes,
Right. Okay, so they don't have full membership, right? But there is something important that I keep saying to the authorities here. I say that the politicians here are trying to push as much as possible for Martinique to become a member state of the OECS and CARICOM. One of the most important things within CARICOM and the OECS is free movement of persons,
yes,
right? Right. So I say, okay, you politically are very much involved in trying to say that Martinique is now a member state of those organizations.
yeah,
What is it that is being done for the policies that are part of those organizations to be put in place? And one of the main ones is the free movement of persons. How can we, at some point in time, start to think that having Martinique as a member of those organizations will allow for persons to be able to move freely from Dominica, for instance, to Martinique, right? There's no answer to that, okay? So it is a point that we have to stress on. We have to start to try to understand. Of course, clearly, for some time now, we no longer have to have a visa to come to Martinique, right? So you can come to Martinique for less than 15 days with either a hotel reservation or something that is called a certificate d'hébergement. In other words, you go to stay with somebody, and the person goes to the mayor in the area where they live, and they fill out a document and they get authorization, which is called the certificate d'hébergement, that allows someone to come for less than 15 days, right? A certificate d'hébergement, you can only use it 3 times in a year, right? So it means that you can only come for 3 times 15 days in a year, right? So that, I'd say, we've had that for maybe 12 years. It's a form of progress, right?
you also need an insurance.
Well, yeah, you have to have insurance and so on, and it depends on the day, if the immigration officer can ask you for a number of other things, like proof of your finances and all sorts of nonsense, right? So, whereas, like you said, persons from Martinique and Guadeloupe come to Dominica, the rule is that they're supposed to have a valid passport, right?
Yes, yes.
Right.
That's all.
But, well, yeah.
That's
But
all, basically. That's all.
yeah, but I'm going even beyond that.
Mm.
They are now being allowed to come with what is called a carte d'identité.
Yes,
In
that's
other
correct
words,
also.
which is an ID card, right? In
Yes.
other words, they are being allowed to come into Dominica with sometimes not without a valid passport, so they can come with their identity card, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I am not against that, because I think that we have to show that we have some level of fraternity and that we can welcome our neighbors into Dominica, right? But where I have a difficulty with that is the question of reciprocity. You understand? So we have to continue to let them know, listen, we are allowing you to come to Dominica, right? We're happy that you're coming. We welcome you. You can come with your identity card if you want. Of course, you have to make sure that you let us know where you're going to stay. We have to make sure that you let us know what is the period, the length of your stay, and so on and so on. But we want to be able to say the same thing when Dominicans are coming to Martinique. We want to be able to say that Dominicans can come into Martinique and that they can come to stay. I mean, I have family in Dominica, right? Who they have a brother living in Martinique. I'm sure they would be happy to just get up on a Thursday and say, look, I'm going to
But of
Martinique on
course,
Friday for the weekend. You know what I mean?
by the way, as we on that topic, what St. Lucians need to come to Martinique? Same thing like us?
It's exactly the same,
Identical.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, it's the same.
So yeah. So it is something that is extremely difficult, even for
What can we do, Mark? Because to me, it is not reciprocal. As an observer status, they are members now of the OECS, Martinique.
well, they have observer status. Yeah.
Observer
They're members
status. Now,
observer
if you have some level of autonomy to come to these OECS islands with cat identity with just valid passports, why are we needing extra? I may feel it should be a level playing field where we should just use the same thing, or at least a valid passport. We don't have to have any card or any whatever, or maybe the new card we may just be getting, but at least a valid passport should take us to the French Antilles, especially for Dominicans who historically has been there for the French. Montpellier, we were there. After World War II for Guadeloupe, we were there. We continue to be there. We have a history of hundreds of years together. We are part of Francophonie together. I mean, I recall, as a matter of fact, I understood in the early days there was no visa to enter. You could just enter as normal. And through some Dominicans misbehaving, that's why there became a visa and later the now present situation. But we are now moving forward. How can we rectify this? In your mind, you live in Martinique, you know some of the officials there, you know how they think. How is that forever and ever? This will become the norm for the rest of our lives. That we need insurance, we need reservations to come to Martinique, Mark.
Well, to be honest, I mean, just go back to what you were saying a while ago about Martinicans coming to Dominica after, during World War II and so on. I don't know if you know a guy called Frantz Fanon. You know about
Frantz Fanon, yeah.
Frantz Fanon is a writer, intellectual. He died. We celebrated 100 years, his 100th birthday about a month ago. And Frantz Fanon, went to Algeria. He fought in Algeria for the Algerian independence, and is somebody whose books and literature and so on is world renowned. Frantz Fanon, during World War II, spent 5 months in Dominica, right? He left Martinique, came to Dominica, spent 5 months so that he could go back eventually to France to go to fight and whatever. So it just goes to show. I mean, there are a number of things that show the number of persons who left Martinique and came to Dominica with nothing, and actually in places like Grand Savannah and so on, and other places, we used to have goats and sheep that we were, herding just to feed persons coming from Martinique and Guadeloupe during World War II to get back to mainland Europe so that they could participate in the war efforts. So it just goes to show, I mean, all that we have done. And the problem is that those things are forgotten, right? So I think that too is essential, that we have, at certain points in time, we have some sort of activity that will remind persons of those historical events where we played an important part in helping Martiniquans and Guadeloupeans when they were in difficulty, you know? So that is one thing. Now, um, you see, what we're talking about, concerning immigration is, of course, dependent on state policies, right? We have recognized that for maybe the past 3 years or so, the French national politics in regard to immigration are getting more and more stringent, more and more difficult, right? I don't know if you know about Mayotte. Mayotte is an island all the way in the Indian Ocean that is part of the Comore Islands, right?
Yeah.
Now, Mayotte is one island from a chain of islands called the Comore Islands. And Mayotte voted to remain French, right? So you have a massive influx of persons coming from the other islands, the Comore Islands, into Mayotte, supposedly, which is creating a demographic, difficulty. So because of that, the French government has decided to put policies in place to control what they call illegal immigration, right? Now, Mayotte is a specific case. Another case that is very similar to Mayotte is French Guyana, because you have lots of persons coming from Brazil and Suriname into French Guyana. So it was the intention of the government to try to put policies in place that was specifically designated to Mayotte and to French Guyana, right? However, you cannot put in place immigration policies that have a special designation to certain areas. It has to be a policy that is applied to the entire French territory, right? So what we're seeing is an evolution in French immigration policies that will also be applied or are to be applied to Dominica and St. Lucia and so on, that are going to make it apparently more and more difficult for persons to be able to travel easily to those islands, right?
Yeah.
Which is contradictory, like I said, to the fact that they are now members of the OECS and CARICOM, right?
Yeah.
But you see, this situation here is in France and in Martinique and Guadeloupe is very complex in the sense that you have the state government and you have local government, right? So you will have, for instance, what is called the Collectivité Territoriale de Martinique, so Martinique Territorial Collectivity, which has a president, right? So that president has to be able to operate side by side with the prefect, who is the representative of the state of the French national government. Now, you will have, for instance, the president of the collectivity who will go and make requests for Martinique to become a member of the organizations that we mentioned, right? But his authority is limited. So Martinique can become a member of those organizations, right?
Yeah.
With the president of the collectivity who has limited power,
Yeah.
right? And as a result, you can find yourself in the situation that Martinique is in now, which is being a member of these organizations, but not having the possibility to take decisions on policies like free movement of persons, right?
Yeah.
So as a result, in my mind, I mean, I cannot see that free movement of persons becoming something that will happen in the very near future, right?
Wow.
However, I always say that if today we have Martinique as a member of those organizations, all the persons who are members of the organizations, in other words, the heads of states of all the other countries, right,
Yeah.
should, in my mind, enter into some form of negotiation, right, with France, because for Martinique to become a member of those organizations, France has to approve,
Yeah.
right? So I figure that at some point in time, those topics have to be put on the table within the structures of those organizations so that they can define what are the limits to Martinique's participation within these organizations, and how is it that Martinique can be better integrated into the region,
Yeah.
and how is it that the region, the rest of the region, can communicate, can move, can commerce, because we're talking about free movements of persons, and I mentioned about my brother coming on holiday. But when we have to start talking about doing business, right?
Yeah.
Which is to me one of the most important things. I mean, going on a holiday is fine. I mean, we're gonna have a good time, but we need to make some money. And I mean, everybody needs to do transactions and to see how we can exchange whatever we produce, and see how we can do commerce and make business.
Yeah.
Which is extremely difficult. So we need to put that topic on the table. We need to find out how is it that we can facilitate business within these islands, between the English-speaking islands, the OECS islands, CARICOM countries, and the French islands. Because I can tell you, and that's something I've been saying for years, you have islands of between England and France in the Channel, right? That are called the Guernsey Islands or something like that, right? You have companies, French companies, setting up their main office on those islands, okay? Because what you have to know is that France is one of the countries where you have the highest level of taxation, okay? So you have French companies setting up on those islands, right? Continuing to operate from those islands. In other words, they're not stopping their activity in France, right? They're just moving their headquarters to those islands so that they can have easy and better tax benefits, right? And Dominica is the same thing.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Dominica is in between Martinique and Guadeloupe, right? And I've been saying that for years once. Dominica is in between Martinique and Guadeloupe. If you see we decide in Dominica, I'll say that differently. We can, in Dominica, set up policies, right? Fiscal, financial, put structures in place to encourage companies from Martinique and Guadeloupe who want to have some form of tax relief, because I can tell you that companies here are suffering under the level of taxes that they have to pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can, if put policies in place to encourage those companies to come to settle in Dominica. You understand?
This is excellent, Mark. And to me, have you had that level of discussions, let's say, with the authorities here in Dominica?
Yeah, we mentioned that. Yeah.
Because to me, I feel this is a major avenue that we should be exploring, especially even going deeper. I also feel that because we don't have the population, that we should be making a concerted effort to do more business with where that has more a larger population in Martinique and Guadeloupe, our closest neighbors. Because of everything historically, culturally, and right now we share culture, music, business aspect, commerce. I think we should, because you just mentioned earlier, and it really hit me with the sorrel, what could have been done. But then I believe, if the necessary policies are in place, especially now, Martinique with OECS observance and all that, commerce is critical for us as a means of survival, because it's an extension of our population. It's a different market, and we have to remember it's also 3 to 1 of our dollar.
Exactly. And I can tell you that, you have like 450,000 people here, right? You probably have about the same in Guadeloupe. So let's say you have 1 million people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Can you imagine, my brother? You have a market of 1 million people to the north and south of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's simple things, eh? For instance, they, they have like box juice here, right?
Yeah.
That is locally made.
Yeah.
Yeah. So passion fruit, for instance, they buy passion fruit syrup from Brazil, right? I mean, the quantities are enormous. So we know the distance between Brazil and Martinique, right? So transportation costs from Brazil and so on to Martinique, I mean, are far higher than if we were to be providing passion fruit syrup from Dominica, right?
Yeah.
Now that is, which brings me to another point that I just quickly mentioned. Transportation between Dominica and Martinique, okay?
Yeah.
If you want to get cargo from Dominica to Martinique, it is one of the most difficult things.
Yeah.
Right? For instance, there's a boat, I forgot the name, it's from Portsmouth, comes every 2 weeks, right? But it's limited,
Yeah.
to the amount of cargo that it can carry. And not only that, but there's no refrigeration service. So if you want to bring things like perishables, if you want to bring passion fruit syrup, if you want to bring coconut water, right?
Yeah.
You can't. So, but I spoke to the people who make those juices, right? And I told them, listen to me, you all make juices from all sorts of fruits. Let us see if we can select 2 fruits, right? We're not going to say that we can produce all fruits. Let us select 1 or 2 fruits and see if we can produce those fruits and, provide you with the syrup. Passion fruit, for instance. Now, passion fruit is something we know how passion fruit grows. It grows as a vine. You can set it up. You can even combine passion fruit with other agricultural products and so on, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm saying here today, and I've mentioned it before to other persons, but I'm sure lots of persons are listening to us, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I'm saying here today that passion fruit, I would love to invite persons, whoever is listening to us today, and who can, of course, because we have to understand that regardless of whatever passion fruit will provide, we will never be able to provide the amount that is required here. So we have to provide quantities that are sufficient for the persons here to say, okay, yes, this is a place that we can buy passion fruit syrup from, right?
Yeah.
So I'm inviting persons here to look into it, to look into getting areas, maybe even getting farmers together so that we can plant and provide passion fruit syrup, because there is a market here, there are persons here who are interested. Now, what we have to understand is that we have to be consistent in whatever.
Consistent.
And we have to make
Consistency.
sure that whatever quantities that we are saying that we're going to provide, we provide the same quantities all the time at the same time.
Yeah. I also understand, Mark, that even our ginger, our Dominica ginger and turmeric is also, in high demand. For some reason, where you may be doing the same thing in Guadeloupe and Martinique, but then from Dominica it is I understood it tastes different, which is something, a plus for us. So it is something that can be an avenue which we can look towards.
Now, Wadix, I'll tell you something. You know that the soils in Martinique are
Basically contaminated.
contaminated.
Yeah.
Right? Right. So anything that is grown in the soil, dasheen, yams, all those things, right?
Yeah.
You have to have doubts about consuming those things.
Yes.
Okay? Even though they're consumed.
But this is a very important point, Mark. This is a very, very important point. We have to really maximize because opportunities are available. If the soil, and we know mainly because of the high cancerous rate in Martinique, that the soil, that it has been traced down to the soil. Okay?
Exactly.
We in Dominica, less polluted. Okay, we are much more less polluted because I guess we didn't mass manufacture like Martinique. So here is a major agricultural avenue with consumers that, we can, just there. All we need is to get quality produce there at a good quality, and like you said, consistently.
Yeah. Now I'll go even further. Um, of course, you see, I'm 100% Dominican, and I um, always believe that whatever we do, we have to try to have our, how can I say it? We have to try to make sure it doesn't get out of our hands, that other
Yes.
persons don't come and take over
Yeah.
from us what we can do ourselves, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, if we know that the soils are polluted in Martinique, right?
Yeah.
And we know that our soils are better quality, and we probably say, look, we don't have the capacity to do large-scale agricultural investments on our own, right?
Yeah.
We can invite persons to come to do it with us.
I love that. I love that. I love that.
So instead of saying, boy, we want to see how we can export dashing to Martinique because dashing in Martinique is doubtful and so on. And we go and we say, let's see what farmers we have in the northeast. Find 4 guys who plant whatever quantity. And we try to go all around Dominica and bring all the little planters together, right? Which is a good idea. I mean, but however, I mean, I still feel that we need to look at it from the form of a cooperative.
Yeah.
But beyond that, because that has its limitations, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, we can also identify areas in Dominica where we used to have agricultural activity that we don't have anymore, because there are a number of areas in Dominica that are abandoned today,
Abandon. Yeah.
right?
Yep.
That were used for agricultural activity. And we can say, let us see how we can write up something with someone or persons from Dominica and persons from Martinique, for instance, to be able to produce on a larger scale, right? The same guy who I told you does the juice in Martinique, right?
Yeah.
One day I said to this guy, you know what, man? I would like to give you the opportunity for you to have your own passion fruit plantation in Dominica, right?
Yeah.
I was saying so just to see how we would react, okay?
Yeah.
Of course, we have to be careful because remember I said we don't want things to get out of our hands. We want to make sure we still have control and so on and so on, right? But I was just saying to him, look, I want, can you imagine if you had your own passion fruit plantation in Dominica? In other words, you are planting, you are responsible for your crops, you are responsible for the transformation, but you're guaranteed that from that plantation, you're getting a certain level of supply whenever you need it, right? What if you won't believe how the guy was overjoyed at the idea?
Yeah.
You know?
This is brilliant. This is simply brilliant. And just before we move, Mark, I want us to quickly touch on the language because you know how important the language is, and we are in denial. I believe we are in denial that we are not doing enough for that link. God has given us that link, that Creole link. It is good with the music and the festival, all that good, but the language, the spoken language, we are not utilizing it. We are not doing enough to preserve it. From your end, and you would have been interacting with quite a bit of people that come to Dominica. And when they come to Dominica, that is the link they want to express themselves in the Creole because it is a unified link. They would expect Dominicans to be able to converse with them in Creole. How important is that link from the other side? Because we don't seem to feel that it is that important for us to do something serious about it. But take it from the angle from a French person coming to Dominica to do business or to visit, vacation, to come to the festival, want to stay, maybe to explore Dominica, and needing to communicate in that Creole language. How important is that language to us?
Well, I mean, it certainly is an advantage and it facilitates any form of exchange that we have between Martinique and Guadeloupe and Dominica, right? And I mean, like we know, we have that advantage. I mean, that St. Vincent and Antigua and so on don't have, right? So I believe that anytime you have an advantage, you have to make use of it. And you have to try to develop it as much as possible. You know, you cannot neglect an advantage. Which should put us in front of, like I said, other islands like St. Vincent and Antigua and so on in relation to what we can develop with Martinique and Guadeloupe, right? So we have to be made more aware of the fact that if we want to exchange with Martinique and Guadeloupe, we have that advantage. I mean, I always say, and I'll tell you so between us, I always say to Martinicans, if you want to go to Dominica to do business, you must be able to speak some English, right? You cannot just believe that you want to go to a country that doesn't necessarily speak the same language as you, which is French, right? And expect the persons to converse with you in your language, right?
Yeah.
But we have, like you said, that common factor,
Yeah.
which is Creole,
Yes.
right? And like I said, we cannot neglect that common factor. It is there. It has always been there, and it is something that has existed historically. So we have that advantage, and I will not, stop saying that we need to make use of it. Which means that, of course, solutions speak a lot more Creole than us, eh?
A lot more.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they have that
speak a lot.
advantage of communication, that link, the networking.
Yeah. They speak a lot more Creole than us. Why? I mean, I don't know. And I don't want to pinpoint anyone or anything, but
No, but we
definitely-
have to examine ourselves and where we are and take stock and put things and policies in place so we can further. My final question to you, Mark, with just 4 minutes to go. I want to go back to a very sensitive area. Some of our slave owners, we know, were from Martinique. It's a fact. Were from Martinique and referred to as Beke in Martinique, I guess, right? Beke. Now, if Martinique, likewise us, are looking for reparation from Europe for slavery, Dominica can look towards Martinique for reparation because some of the Beke, I know you're going to smile, some of the Beke still reside in Martinique. And some of the Beke were offspring of those same slave owners. So Dominica can look at reparation from Martinique because some of the slave owners were Beke from Martinique. So, before you go, any comments on this?
We from the beginning of this program, we've been talking about the things that we share commonly with Martinique and Guadeloupe, right?
Yeah.
That is one of the things that we share commonly with Martinique and Guadeloupe, right? In other words, we were also enslaved by French.
Yes.
persons, right? So definitely, if we are to ask for reparation and you said reparation from Europe,
Yes.
which I think is the best way to look at it. If we are to ask for reparation for whatever happened during that period of time, we should, I think, also ask for reparation from France.
Yes.
Because, and by extension, from whoever represented France when that was happening at the time.
Exactly.
Right? So yes, we should ask for reparation from France because we definitely were and experienced a period of slavery where the persons who were managing, that horrific experience were from France,
Mm-hmm. This is good stuff. Mark, I really want to thank you for the hour. I really want to encourage you, whatever you're doing for us, continue to do it. I really do hope that you will get one of the highest awards because a lot of people may not know the kind of work that you do, but you have actually networked with people like me and Sobers, Jeff, Joe, and Gordon, and several other people. Not the vocal type, but doing your work in between and making sure everything is done and done in a particular way. I really want to commend you and I really want to thank you for the work that you have done for Dominica. By the way, for free, You don't get paid as for that particular service. We didn't touch on your actual profession, you're an architect, and I've seen some of the most beautiful buildings that you have designed in Martinique, and even some of your work in Dominica. For those who don't know, I mean, some fantastic work in 44 South. You have designed some stuff in 44 South. I would have loved us to go into that, but then we're out of time. But then I just want people to know that you are simply one of our best assets out there in Martinique. You have done tremendous work, and I hope one of those days you'll get one of the highest awards in Dominica for the work that you have done for Dominica, my brother. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to say I thought an hour was long, right? but but we have so much to say that we would have needed a lot more time. But thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, and I also appreciate the fact that we can work together.
Yes.
And that we have that capacity to be able to move Dominica forward as much as we can.
Absolutely.
Doing as much as we can together. So thanks. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. And don't forget, for your 20th anniversary, we may come. I think I may come in Martinique in September. I saw some email that I should be in Martinique in September, so we'll start to celebrate from September to October on the 20th anniversary, and we'll reminisce on our basketball days at SMA grounds. Mark Frampton, and he is the Dominica Honorary Consul to Martinique and has been doing so for 20 years. And we really want to commend him for the work that he has been doing for Dominica. And I must say, he has been doing tremendous work representing the nature isle there. This was another Creole Heartbeat program as we continue our special edition WCMF at 25. He has also been part of the promotion of the destination of the festival in Martinique. And from his feedbacks, boats are going to be filled to capacity from the south of Dominica. We are all confirmed. So as far as St. Lucia, Martinique are already booked. So Dominica, brace yourself for the greatest festival in the world, our 25th edition. Up next is Dr. Miguel Labadie taking over right here on your nation station, DBS Radio. Prince Wadix